So I'm delighted to welcome you to this video, this presentation of who we are. And I know that you will see in this and hear in this our story individually, little clips of our work, our apostolates, our beliefs, but more importantly, you'll hear what other people think of us as well. And for us, it is hugely important as we search for ever more relevant ways in a society that's changing so quickly. It's so important for us to listen to what other people have to say to us and to learn from that and change our way of being while always keeping true to who we are and what our tradition tells us. So I think there are some lovely stories to be heard, experiences to be shared, and this is a wonderful opportunity to get that.
Well, how I came to be a volunteer in John's Lane was I come from Oliver Bond House down the road, and I've went to John's Lane School, and I've always come here to Mass. And one day after 1 o'clock Mass, I left the church, and Father Michael O'Sullivan followed me out and asked me would I consider being a minister for the Eucharist. And I said to him, well, I'll think about it, because I didn't think I could do it. So, to avoid him, I started going down to Mass to the Franciscan church. So one day he collared me and he told me off. He said to me, if you don't want to do it, that's okay, but don't stop coming to John's Lane. And that made me feel really bad, worse. So I said, well, I'll do it. And 17 years later, I'm still here, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it's brand new. They built it, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I've seen other accommodations for students, and they're not exactly the best. So this place is really creme de la creme.
Even the teachers, as soon as you came in, were just
very
welcoming you. Whereas in the other schools, like, you just kind of went in, saw the school, out you go. Whereas once you came here, it was like, hello.
You felt like you were like a family, like you came in, like I remember on my first day of school after I made my decision to come into the school, after I said, I was like, came into school and all the teachers were like, hello, and all my classmates, they were all in the same position as I was, so I felt like we're all like bonding straight away. It was no kind of awkwardness and no, everything was just running smoothly, and because of the teachers, because of the atmosphere that's in the school, is absolutely amazing.
Even though I live in Blanchetown, I would still class this as my parish church. And as I said, it's like a magnet, it draws me to it. And I just enjoy all the work that I do in the parish. I wouldn't be here only for the Augustinians. And if we ever lost the Augustinians, I'm sure I'd have to find my parish in Blanchetown.
Mary cooks these fantastic dinners, which are, it's almost like it is like being at home. It's really fantastic feeling. Like if you study for about 3 years, come home, and then you always have to cook it yourself, which is, it's part of college life. You're going to do it eventually or later on in life, but just knowing that, okay, after 3 years of me studying and my 4th year, I can come home and then there's dinner cooked to me. It's just a really fantastic feeling, because, you don't have to start worrying about that. You're not in college thinking, I have to go home now and start cooking. So that really helps kind of relax the mind and relax the mood.
I had a few of them in a club for no name, no drinking kind of club, and there was a few boys from the Augustinian school up there.
And I'm still friends with them.
Yeah, we're still friends with them, so I suppose we're taught the same things and we get on.
Yes, because we were in a club in Dungarvan in this area, and we went to Limerick and they were there, and we found out that they're in St. Augustine's College, so we could bond
Connect
and like
with them,
not just with the club, but as a kind of like a community from school wise. So.
Yeah, I remember I saw their crest as well, and that's how we knew.
That's how we knew. Yeah.
So straight away you recognise that.
Yeah, like
then,
once you know Unitas, Veritas, Caritas, you know that for life. Once you see it, you're like, yeah.
And you know you can
exactly
approach
what it is.
them.
Yeah.
It's a lovely school. The fact that it's an Augustinian school is good. Like, we go to Mass once a week, and there's a meditation room there for us as well, and it's a good school overall.
Well, I'm going back. I came every Sunday to Mass, holy days, whatever. But then my husband died suddenly, and I just used to come in quietly when there'd be no Mass and that, and just sit in the church, crying, looking up at the Sacred Heart. And then there was a Brother Pius was here at the time in the shop, and he used to be popping in and out, checking the altar, making sure everything was okay. And he'd see me, and he knew me from coming to Mass. But he used to come down then, he'd say to me, all right, and I'd say no, because he was on the funeral of my husband, so he knew. So I said, no. So he said, right, would you like to do a little something in here? I said, no, don't go eat me, I don't want nothing. He went off. Then another day, Father O'Sullivan came down, and he asked me, would I like to get involved? I said, no. This was early stages now. And then there was, of course, my favourite was Father Fortune, who died 3 years this year. And he was great. So he came down, he sat with me, and he said to me, look, if I give you a small reading. I said, no, I couldn't get up there. I just could not get up there and read. He said, of course you can. He said, if you were in a pub, wouldn't you go up and sing? Which was funny. So he gave me the small reading, and he showed me what they told me. Then he kept saying, pause, carry on, pause. So it was really Father Fortune that learned me most of what I do now. So then eventually minister of the Eucharist, then a reader, then the funerals. So I'm just flying at the minute. I absolutely love it. They're all so good here. And I really, wholeheartedly, I owe my life to them here. Because they're like another family. And they were all very good to me, even now. Like, they involve you in different things, and they do appreciate what you do. Some people might say, you're mad doing this, and you're mad doing that, you should go somewhere, go out off somewhere, but no, I'm happy enough what I'm doing. I absolutely love it. I love it to bits. And as I said, they are another family to me here, and like, no matter what problem or that, I just go to one of them, and it's all confidential. You know, they are so good, and I get on great with them all.
I will say the only thing is that the Augustinians, every one that I've met, and I've met about 20 who have come through the parish, they all have that same openness and friendliness. And otherwise, I wouldn't be here.
A couple of months ago in Mass, they said that there was a group going to it, and if you wanted to apply, you had to send in a letter. So we all wrote a letter on why we'd like to go and what we bring to Lourdes. And then we were picked out, I think it was a hat maybe or something. And so myself and Matthew went. And first thoughts to Lourdes, it was a lovely place, like down around the grotto was lovely and peaceful. And then we did the baths one day, and they were probably the best experiences of it. Like, you've come out and you'd feel cleansed nearly, and the fact that you dry off straight away, you'd know it's holy water.
If we didn't have the backup of the team, I wouldn't have been able to exist all those years. And for many of the first years, there was a community here, and meals were served here and everything else. So after, say, if I went to the market to get the vegetables for the little flower, I was down there at 6 a.m. I came back, parked the van, left in the vegetables and stuff, and went to the 8 o'clock Mass here, and then came in and joined the Augustinians at breakfast, and then went across to the flower again. So it was very much part of my everyday joining for breakfast and a bit of talk, and then going back to the grindstone again. And I came over again at lunchtime and had my lunch with the group and that. And you know, heard what everybody else was doing as well, because we didn't live in a vacuum here. We lived in a real living, thriving, bustling, busy community. And the community was the outside and the inside in the house, you know. And there was a contrast of people who had no intellectually and everything else, were in one state helped to balance the extraordinary difficulty of trying to make ends meet at the other side of the circle, you know. So it was like as if all human life was there, you know. And God present in all of it. That's the thing. We often have quotes from Augustine and quotes from this and that during our meals, you know. That we're, in a sense, supported by that vision of the Augustinians, the vision of St. Augustine.
About 5 years ago, we were having a meeting and we were discussing what we could do for the elders of the parish, the seniors of the parish. And it was brought up that we could start up some kind of a film club on on a Wednesday and a bingo on a Thursday, and a free, and we give them sort of prizes and cups of tea and biscuits. Only for the Augustinians, that would never have happened, because they partly funded it in conjunction with Little Clare Hall, and sort of they have done so much for the parish that some of it is hidden, but like 50 people on a Thursday who come to a bingo free don't realise that only for the Augustinians they wouldn't have that facility. And it's the same with the film club on a Wednesday. It's a free event, tea and coffee, and it's to get people out of their homes to mix and communicate. The Augustinians did all that.
Well, I was ordained in 1971 at the age of 24. I was just 24. And the provincial, Colm O'Mahony, came out shortly afterwards, and he interviewed all of us, and he asked me if I would be willing to go to UCD, and I said to him I would prefer to go to Africa. And he said to me, well, the choice was mine in a sense, but that I would not last in Africa more than 1 year. So I said I'd give it a try. And I got the visa for Nigeria that same year. And Kevin McManus and myself both got visas at the same time. And I headed out then to Nigeria. And despite what the provincial had predicted, I lasted 38 years out in Africa. And they were the happiest years of my life.
We arrived to an old house that was colonially built, made of cane and mud plaster. And it was all in a colonial type of style house. And at night time you could hear the termites eating away at the wood inside in it, and pigeons cooing in the ceiling, and rats or mice, I don't know whether the rats or mice running around. So it was, Declan Brennan had prepared the house. He had poured diesel on all the floors to kill all the various different animalitos that were living there.
On my first night in the place, where there was no electricity, no running water, going to bed with a torch close at hand in case of any emergency. And I remember lying down on the bed, wondering what was to be, when I heard a noise up on the roof, the straw roof above my head. So I took my torch and I shone it up on the roof, and there was a lizard. And I said to myself, if that thing falls down upon me, I'm dead. I won't survive the shock. But there was nothing I could do about it, so I turned off the torch, and then the rustling noise got quite loud again. And I grabbed the torch and shone the torch up into the roof, and there was a great big dirty black spider Now, I would describe myself very much as being in the arachnophobia side of things. But even as I looked in horror at the spider, the lizard came along, galloped up the spider, and I said, "That's my friend." So I slept soundly after that. I had no worries again. As I said, things could be worse.
We were real strangers to the place, and we weren't really very accepted initially. And I'd be there and you'd hear, and coming in the distance, you'd hear something like, "Pacarito verde color de limon." And this would go on all night. It sounded like as if it was a mantra from some other religion, but it was Christmas carols that they were singing, but it was frightening for us just to hear it. This is the atmosphere. Then there were 3 of us in a huge, huge area. Just, I don't know how you could give it, I don't know, maybe twice the size of Wexford County, the whole terrain. And there were chapels all over the place, and most of them all run down and everything. So we had to get in there. They thought that we didn't understand. They didn't understand our Spanish. There's a good joke about that. I don't know whether I can tell it to you or not, will I? I will tell it. Up in the parish next to us, when you say parish now, it means the whole county next to us, there were Basque priests who were very, very intensely involved with the people. They didn't go with authorities at all. They went with the people, and some of them were in a house one day, and it was 2:30, and we had a radio program going out at that 2:30, and the friends, the people in the house where they were, said to the Basques, "You keep quiet now, because the priests from Chone are going to talk now. They're speaking in English, but if you listen carefully, you can understand them." That was their version of our Spanish. They were speaking in English, but carefully listen to, you could understand them. And then when Father Tom used to come on, they'd say, "Oh no, we can't understand him at all, you can keep talking." So Tom had been in Italy all this time, and he always mixed up Italian and Spanish in his time there, but they loved him because of his personality.
Learning how to speak the Hausa language was quite fun at times. Being thrown into the deep end, living in places where there was no English, and therefore it was absolutely necessary to pick up the Hausa language. However, the Hausa language is not spoken in every tribe, and unfortunately, when beginning to learn Hausa, I was encouraging the children to teach me words in the Hausa language as I thought, but they were teaching me their own language. And when I went to boast about how many Hausa words I had learned, they laughed at me and said, "That's not Hausa, that's Mumie." So I learned, eventually becoming fluent enough in Hausa language to go to the father in charge of a mission called Mapeo, belonging to the Chamba people. I would have spent many, many years in different parts of Chambaland. I grew to much appreciate that particular tribe. They were warm and friendly and very, very open to the faith, which, as I learned, was something which existed very much in the people. It wasn't something which I was bringing to them. God was always there long before the missionaries arrived.
Basic idea of the Augustinians is to respond to the needs of the people in any given way, in any given time. And of course there are different needs in different countries all over the world. And so you have to adapt to the change.
Very positive side of my time there was, I was happy there all the time. It was a challenge all the time. It was a worthwhile challenge. It was also, of course, it was very challenging intellectually to be teaching the future leaders of the Catholic Church in a country where there was a huge population and it was going very Catholic as well.
I can remember just one occasion, and a crowd had attacked Maiduguri, which was the diocese we were running, and somebody phoned from Ireland to find out about our priests. We would have had maybe 20 or 30 priests there, and the bishop. And we didn't know how they were getting on, so I drove up. Well, I had a driver. And on the outskirts of Maiduguri, I met some military personnel, and they said I couldn't go any further, but they would find out from the bishop how things were. So I waited, and they came back, a nice letter from Bishop Cotter. So I couldn't phone from there. I went back to Jos, and the phones were down in Jos, which would be about 8 hours drive away. And then I had to drive another 3 hours to a place, Kaduna, and eventually I got through to our house in Clare in England, and one of the friars there took up the phone. I told him who I was and what I wanted to convey. And he said, sorry, we're having a meeting here just at present. Would you ever phone back later? So that wasn't exactly amusing, but that was an experience.
There was a big reconstruction done on the church there in Galway during my period as parish priest. And it's a very spectacular transformation of a worship space. And the main architect in it was a man called Hurley. He's dead since. But then, after 33 years in Galway, I got the call to come back up to Dublin, that Dublin too needed some civilization. So it was with some reluctance that I obeyed the call to come back to Ballybor.
What we've seen in the west of Ireland today, and what we saw all over Europe 20, 30 years ago, young people leaving their communities, heading for the cities, leaving older people alone and isolated. And that is true today. That is the challenge really for Ireland as well, because the young people, as we reach a technological age, and we talk about instant communication, there's less social communication now than there was then. And I think that again is a great Augustinian pointer, if you wish, to promote the communication, particularly with older people and with others. It doesn't have to be a massive program. It's a question of simple contact. And if we can be doing that where we are in the houses which we live in, with people around us, we're doing a very, very good piece of missionary work, in my view.
I could sit up talking all night. But it took me a long time to find out also some of the times that I did stay up and talked. I was talking to some fellow who hadn't spoken maybe for a couple of days. And was going through depression and gradually worked himself out of it, through it, and became back to normal again, you know.
One of the difficulties we had at the beginning was that men, particularly men, came along and they said they were distracted in their prayers by the woman across the way, you know. So I suggest that that might be a healthy distraction, and you should rather be enjoying it than complaining about it. So that you had to, in the space, it encouraged people to kind of encounter their humanity and deal with it.
Canon Gleeson, who was the former parish priest here, there's a picture of him up there on the wall, he blessing the troops in the Battle of the Somme. And when he came back from the World War I, he was astonished to find the level of poverty in the area and the number of people who were kind of in need of food help. So he started the penny dinners over there. And the penny dinners were where people in their homes could come in, or the children could come in after school and get food, a stew in a bucket to take away. And they came in after school and they got a bucket of stew or something else. And also the kids from the schools were fed over there as well. There were schools around in the area. There was one at the other side of the church in Meath Street. And So it was a place of service, I think, always to the poor because of being such a poor area, because it was surrounded by tenements back in those days. Indeed, I was in Dublin already when the last of the tenements came down in the Marrowbone Lane area.
Today we have a different area here in the Liberties. We've problems we didn't have 30 years ago, and they range from drugs to homelessness to a range of other social and economic problems. But given the Augustinian values, they are more relevant today than ever before. And although now I'm well into my 80 years, and I still think it's very, very important that as friars, we're all growing older. There's that ministry there to still reach out in whatever capacity or way we can in the communities in which we live in, to reach out to people. I know the parish have done a magnificent job here in Meath Street, and many of our houses are doing the same thing, communities around the country.
Growing up in a family where you have give and take and fun, and as my dad would say when my mother would call him to step into something, he'd say, actually I have nothing. He'd never allow himself to get involved, but he would be fully aware of what went on. And later on, maybe several hours later, he might have a word and say, cool down a bit, and don't be too dominating, whatever. So that helped me an awful lot in my work later on. I began to see through it when I went into secondary school. I could see what was going on at home, which I didn't really notice when I was in the middle of it.
I remember stealing bikes, we'd say. I'd be sent up to the village for a loaf of bread or something. Stealing a bike and crashing the bike on the way home, sort of thing, and having to go to the woman from whom I had stolen the bike to tell her the bike was up so she could collect it. But it wasn't roadworthy anymore, That's 8 and 9 years of age, kind of fairly adventurous.
I remember when I took my simple vows in Galway, it was my sister's first time meeting the community. I'd been in the community for over 2 years at stage, but my first time she met them, and it was during the meal in the restaurant, and she came over and she gave me a big hug and she said, "They're lovely. They're absolutely lovely. They're barking mad, but they're lovely." And that kind of sums up being an Augustinian. Barking mad, but absolutely lovely. We don't try to be anything we're not. Our charism is community, working together, living together, journeying together, searching for God, that sense of restlessness. So we are kind of open to people coming along with us for part of the journey, for all of the journey, for some of the journey. We're open to try anything. If there's something that needs to be done and we can do it, we'll give it a shot. And even if we can't do it, we'll still give it a shot. I like that about the Augustinians. I like the sense of we actually care for each other and we care for those we minister to. And oftentimes it's in the small things you see the care. I'm always hugely impressed when I see some of our older men still able to have a laugh and a joke together, even though they may have lived together for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, yet they can still make each other laugh. I was always impressed that when I got sick one time in one of our communities, just a bad dose of the flu, the friar would ring me, ask, did I want breakfast, did I want lunch, did I want dinner, did I want water, did I want 7-Up, and the genuine care that was shown. That impresses me hugely. Impresses me when I visit our friars in Ballybode and see how they look out for each other and they take note of each other and they watch for each other. The sense of humour is essential to be an Augustinian. You can't take yourself or life too seriously. And I think we do best when we're working with other people. And that's when we really do see our own strengths. And we seem to be able to find those who are most broken, most lost, most searching. Maybe because we feel like maybe an affinity with them, because we too are searching and, you know, kind of lost and looking for God. And so to be an Augustinian really does mean you do need this sense of community, this sense of getting stuck in and just being happy with life, and being able to face into challenges knowing that you don't have all the answers. You may not even have any answer, but you are still willing to walk with whoever is with you, be it another brother, be it someone from the parish, be it someone you minister to. And I saw that as well in my own ministries. That I suppose in formation I was moved from place to place, which is again a brilliant experience. And the three ministries that stood out for me were, you know, trained to be a hospital chaplain, working in the prisons, and working in our schools. So again, you see a lot of, I suppose, vulnerability, a lot of family problems, social problems, health problems, and you see, but also such capacity for care, for love, for joy, and you see the Spirit of God sweeping through in moments of grace.
Yeah, it was in a place, I was working in Galway for a long time, and Galway is a small city, so you had a lot of hotels close to each other, and you had a lot of weddings going on the one day. So I did my wedding in the Augustinian, and I assumed, I was under the impression that the reception was in the Ardalan Hotel. So I went up to the Ardalan, and the reception was afoot, and I knew quite a few of them at the reception, and I joined in the drinks. And so we went in, then the bell rang after about an hour and a half, and I walked into the dining room, and I looked up, and I said, "That's not my bride." So I panicked. I went out to the reception desk and said, "Who is the wedding, and where might my wedding be?" So after some kind research on the part of the receptionist, she told me that my wedding was down in the prom in Salt Hill, and that's where I should be, not drinking champagne above at her wedding.
Being an Augustinian means everything to me, and I love it. There are obviously challenges. I would know from my own brothers and sister, and my nieces and my nephews, my family in general and friends, that religion and religious life is something that is difficult for people to comprehend today. So there is that challenge there in keeping it relevant, and keeping out there is the only way to do that, making sure that we are present to people and meeting them where they're at, and genuinely doing so, not putting on a facade of that. But also for me, being an Augustinian and serving the Augustinian community, either as leader or in any other way, is the greatest privilege that I could have, because, as I said, it's a wonderful life. I thoroughly enjoy it. I love gatherings of friars, whether it's Irish friars coming together. We have a European network of friars who meet on a regular basis, and we will also have our worldwide gathering of friars this year. And it's just an amazing thing to me every time I meet them, that we all have something in common. We all share something. And there is that heart that's in everybody, that restlessness, that idea of constantly looking for new ground and new territory. And there's great fun and enjoyment and great spirit in that. And that begins at home, literally, with your own friars, in the house you're living in, but still is shared worldwide. And that's something that surprises me constantly, and I love it.